Hello, my name's Andrew, and today we're doing a first impressions review of the Vivo Barefoot PRIMUS Trail Knit FG. So these are a lightweight barefoot shoe for hiking and trail running, and they're probably one of my most requested reviews of all time. So I finally got in touch with Vivo to get a pair to test, and I took them to a park the other day with my dad. We went for a walk and a hike, and I went for a trail run afterwards, and I can see what people are talking about because they've got this really interesting blend of like a lightweight, stretchy slip-on upper and then some really durable, versatile sole. So yeah, we're gonna get into that, but first let's just go over some of the basic features. So up front, you've got a wide toe box, and what I really like about the knit is that it's got a lot of extra flexibility for toe splay. But another thing I like about the knit upper, if you look at it closely, you can see that it's got these holes here. So when the knit upper is closed, just kind of like a resting position, or if you're just going out for a walk in colder climates, it's a little bit warmer than a mesh upper, which is a little bit more open. But then if you're going on like a faster run, or if you're kind of going up and down hills and stuff, and the shoe's really starting to flex, they start to open up, and then you got a lot of really good airflow so that your feet aren't sweating in the shoe. So they're really good for multiple climates. And right now in spring, Rochester, New York, it's like oscillating between like 40s and 50s, kind of like cold, and then getting up to like 60, 70 degrees. So this is a great shoe for spring. It's probably gonna be a great shoe for summer as well. Yeah, but moving forward, if you look up at the top of the shoe, you've got these 3 lace locks here, and they have a little bit of like a longer design to them than your normal like holes. So they hold the drawstring in place a little bit better, and that's kind of nice because then you can adjust the tension individually. With some shoes, the tension will kind of just like even out no matter what you do, but these hold the laces really well. And the nice thing about that is like, if you have something that hurts on your foot, or you just like it looser in a certain spot, you can make it like looser in the front and then tighter here. And yeah, it's just a little bit of customization, but honestly, like I set the drawstring once the first time I put them on, and then I never touched it since. And that's just because if you have the slip-on upper, you really don't need the drawstring after you get the tension the way that you want it to be. But it's kind of a good thing because I don't really like Vivo Barefoot's current drawstring design. It's a little bit clunky. You've got this thing up in front. You've just got a little too much extra drawstring for my taste, and you kind of have to like tuck it in here. So yeah, I mean, they could do something like Velcro or a clip maybe in the future that would improve it. But overall, I kind of just like tuck it in there and wrap it around twice and then never touch it again. But going up to the top of the shoe, you've got the slip-in upper, but one thing I like is that it's a little bit thinner. So it kind of just like folds like that along the front of your foot, and it doesn't create rubbing like some kind of harder materials can. They've got the same thing in the back, kind of has this rolling back, so it's not rubbing on the back of your ankle either. And then if you look on the inside of the shoe, it's hard to see because it's black, but there's actually a little bit of extra heel padding right here. And what that does is, along with the curved shape, it creates this really nice pocket for your heel to sit in so that you're not sliding up and down, which is especially important for trail running where you can really get some nasty blisters, and especially, you know, hiking as well. But yeah, on the other side of the shoe, you've got some holes just for a little bit of extra breathability. But overall, I like that even though it's got the knit on the top for flexibility and breathability, they've got a lot of reinforcement all the way around the shoe, any place where there might be tear outs. And it also helps with the water resistance because you've got the wraparound sole here plus the reinforcement panels, because water can come through knit fairly easily. So if you're going through like a muddy field or something, it provides a lot of really good water resistance where, you know, just a straight knit material wouldn't do that as much. So that's really nice. Obviously it's not a water shoe, and water can splash up over through the top even if it doesn't get in through the side. But one thing that can help with that is that Vivo has included a removable insole. So if you're gonna go on a really wet trail run and you know that some water is gonna get into the shoe, this can help because it's perforated. And so the water will kind of go through the insole and then sit underneath it so that your foot's not, let's say, swamping around in the bottom of the shoe. And another use for it is that it just adds a little bit of extra padding if you're going on some super hard terrain or some super rocky terrain and the sole is not giving you enough protection. But yeah, let's take a look at the tread. It's a 5.5 millimeter sole, so medium thick for a barefoot shoe. But it's got some really good flexibility, horizontal, vertical, and diagonal as well. You can kind of twist it in half. And this is a Vivo Barefoot's FG1 sole. This is the original one, and it has this kind of triangle hexagonal shape to it. In the front, there's a little bit more room. So if you're going up a hill, it helps the forefoot dig into the ground. And then in the back, the lugs are a little bit closer together so that when you're going down a hill, you're not getting like jabbed by sharp rocks where you're putting a lot more pressure on your heel. In terms of what the sole is great for, it's great for packed earth, dirt, rocks, even some mud, just as long as it's not too steep, because then you'd want something a little bit deeper like Vivo Barefoot soft ground sole, which we're gonna get to. But the only other thing that I wouldn't use it for is like longer road mileage. It's fine if you're doing like 2 to 3 miles, or you're doing a trail run, you need to cross the road for a ways. But if you're going on roads for a longer, 5-10 mile run, I think that it can get a little bit heavier feeling, a little bit clunky. And at that point, I would go for something thinner like the Vivo Barefoot PRIMUS Light Knit, which has actually the same type of knit upper. But yeah, you can do some light road mileage. Moving on, let's talk about some other alternatives. The closest obviously would be the original Vivo Barefoot PRIMUS Trail. This has a mesh upper. It's not quite as flexible, and I would say this is closer to a medium width than the knit, which is definitely a full wide, a lot of really good room there. And then it's pretty much the same shoe overall with the tread, same FG1 tread, but then in the back, it's got a little bit thicker padding. So I'd say overall this shoe feels a little bit more armored. Like if you're doing faster trail running, if you need a lot more breathability for warmer temperatures, then this would be a good option compared to the knit. But another good one would be the FRE Howgo. This is a new one from FRE, and this is an interesting shoe because it's also got a knit upper, but it doesn't have any support. It's a little bit more of a free feel for this, like being completely barefoot, because there's nothing to restrict your foot. But also if you're going on a little bit more unstable terrain, you're not gonna get as much stability from it. But another thing that's cool about it is that it actually has a water resistant membrane. It's really hard to see because it's transparent, but it's underneath the top knit layer. And it surprised me because the first time I took them out, I was like, why are my feet not getting wet? And it's because it has a membrane. It works pretty well. It's not completely waterproof, but for really muddy fields and going through some light puddles and stuff like that, it's really good, especially on a cold day where you really don't want your feet to get wet. But yeah, slip-on upper like the other ones, really comfy, really easy to put on. And I found the inside of the shoe to be a little bit too slippery to wear just as is. So FRE actually gives you an insole, and I usually don't find that I need insoles for shoes, but I actually like the shoe more with the insole for this one because it's got a little bit more of a textured feel to it, so it keeps your foot from slipping around. And that's also perforated on the bottom, so water will go straight through to the bottom of the shoe, and again, it'll just keep you off there so you're not swamping around. In terms of the sole, it's got a 7.5 millimeter sole, and you'd think that that might feel kind of stiff. However, actually the lugs are about 4 millimeters, and then the sole is like 3.5, so it is incredibly flexible for how thick it is. And that's really great for trail running, especially because you want more agility, but this is one where it gives you a ton of agility, but then because the lugs are a little bit thicker, a little bit wider, they're really good at handling sharp, rocky type terrain. And then same thing in the front, it's a little bit spaced for some really good grip. It's got a little bit better grip on super muddy hills versus the FG sole. And then same thing in the back, a little bit closer together for some protection on your heel. So next up is the Vivo Barefoot Magna Light Water Resistant Soft Ground, really long name. But yeah, this one's taller, which is great for really super sloppy conditions or winter type running where you've got slush and you really don't want it getting over the top of the shoe. It's got a stretchy slip-on upper, which is great, but even though it's taller, it actually has some really good range of motion on the upper. It's very light material, and the toe box of the shoe is quite wide. It's got a ripstop lining to it to prevent tear-outs, and the water-resistant material here is really good for wet, muddy trails, slush, that kind of stuff. Again, not completely waterproof, but you've also got the double layer here just for a little bit more protection from the water, but it can get into the top. kind of like the knit. The one thing I don't like about it though is these straps here. They are good for support, especially for trail running if you're going on really unstable terrain, but they are a little bit harder. So I find that right around here where your ankle is, they could rub on the ankle bone a bit. So the solution that I came up with is just to wear a couple layers of socks, and that just gives you a little more padding, and then it's not a problem. Underneath, you've got a 7.5mm sole like the Howgo, but again, it's super flexible just because a lot of the thickness of the sole is taken up by the lugs here. But you've got these chevron shaped lugs, so they're like claws on soft ground. They really dig into the mud. This is the best sole that I've ever tried for soft ground trail running and hiking. And they're pointed this way for going up hills, and then pointed the opposite way for going down hills to prevent you from slipping. So last up, we've got the Vibram 5 Fingers V neoprene, and this one also has a slip-on collar, but it's got a neoprene upper, which if you don't know is basically wetsuit material. So it's like a wetsuit for your foot. And what neoprene does is it is a little bit water resistant, but mostly it's like when it gets wet, it kind of traps your body heat so that it doesn't escape away from your foot, and it keeps you warmer, which is nice because a lot of Vibram 5 Fingers can get really cold if the water comes in through the toes. So yeah, it just kind of hugs your foot. And I found them to be really comfortable. They are absurdly flexible. You can roll them twice diagonally, you know, just crazy flexibility. And it's a 4mm sole, so obviously it's very thin, but because it's Vibram, it's also extremely tough. Like, it just does not wear, but it also like freakishly feels soft and like really grippy. So I don't know how they do it, some kind of black magic. But yeah, you've got some grip here on the back of the shoe and the front of the shoe, but then also they've kind of like micro cut it so that it's even more flexible. So this feels to me the most like being completely barefoot out of all the options. And it's got the separate toes, so it's got almost an extra wide toe box because your toes have a lot more room to spread out. And to me, it just gives you more agility, more of a natural feel. And even though it doesn't have very much tread on it for the V neoprene, because they've got separate toes, when you're going down a hill, the toes tend to act like little mini lugs. So it's a lot more grippy than something would be without separate toes and a minimal tread like this. So I found it great for like trail running on packed dirt, and even road running it's great for. It's also great for going through like a swamp. You know, I like put my foot into the mud and it just kind of like slipped off the neoprene upper, which is great. The only thing it's not good for is like really steep hills because there's just not enough grip here. But for pretty much everything else, it's a great shoe for colder weather if you want to have, you know, max sensation and ground feel, stuff like that. But yeah, those are some options for some slip-on trail shoes. But if you want to support the channel, you can shop with the referral links down below and use the code FULTY10 for 10% off Vivo Barefoot, or FULTY15 in the month of March in 2024, which we still have 2 weeks left for 15% off. Also, you can browse and filter more products at my website, barefootwear.org, or watch my zero drop transition video to learn more about barefooting. Finally, if you have a question about the Vivo Barefoot PRIMUS Trail Knit FG or about barefoot shoes in general, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.